Welcome to HERPath Podcast, the podcast for busy women looking for purpose, health, and happiness. Today, I'm excited to talk about wanting what you have. And this is a pretty life-changing topic, if you allow it to be. I was first introduced to this topic from our instructor, Brooke Castillo at the Life Coach School. And I had never really thought about wanting what I already have. I'm always like, we're always on to the next thing. And so I'm just going to share just a little bit like what kind of shifted in my mind. We're brought up in, at least here in America, the culture is, right, you in high school as a young girl, ideally you go to college, you get a career, then you meet your husband, meet your boyfriend, fiance, you get married, you have kids, and then you get the house with the white picket fence and the fairy tale and life ever after, right? And so as we start to accumulate these things, as we mature, we basically don't stop to smell the roses and don't give ourselves credit and realize that everything that we have in our life currently is because of a thought or a choice that we made previously. And so if there's something in your life that you don't like, take ownership of that. You chose that. And I just thought it was just so interesting to think, looking at my dog, like, I want my dog. I want my dog, rather than, oh my gosh, I have to clean up after her shit again in the backyard. I don't want to do that again. Or this vet bill is going to cost me, thousands of dollars. Same with, right, the partners, the husbands, the boyfriends, and the list can go on and on. So I'm very curious, ladies, like, what your thoughts are on, and when you heard this concept of wanting what you have, how it shifted your perspective, and what you'd like to share. How about you, Elise?
Yeah, so the thing that has come into my mind and just keeps circling is one of those self-coaching questions. How is this perfect just the way it is? I love asking my clients that question. I ask myself that question. I've needed to ask myself that question a lot in the last couple months, as I've been going through just a lot of different things. And I love this question because it really makes you stop and pause. And it really makes you reflect, and it brings out gratitude that has been hidden, right? So instead of what's the next thing, what's the next rung up the ladder, right? It's stopping and pausing and taking stock of what you have today and bringing forward gratitude, which I think sometimes can be hard. I know, as you all know, I had a major death in the family. We have other sick relatives. There's just been one thing after the other. And gratitude is hard during those times. And even when you're reaching. All right, I got this one promotion, but I really want to be 2 levels up. So I got to reach. We completely forget to have gratitude or pride in ourselves, or acknowledge that we just made it to the next level. Because we're just looking far ahead. So I love that it makes you pause and take stock of what you have today.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Thanks, Elise. It reminds me of the author of the book that you recommended, that I read, that I recommend all of our listeners to check out. It's called The Gap in the Gain. And I believe it's by Dan Sullivan.
Yes.
So just getting into that practice of gratitude and looking at your wins versus the losses. How about you, Gabby?
Oh, I can think of a lot of instances where if I didn't allow myself to really have that sense of gratitude, the appreciating what is actually in front of me, how much it affects the relationships or your quality of life. And I had no clue this was something that we could affect. I automatically assumed that there was something wrong with my job. There was something wrong with my husband. There was something wrong with my kids. There was something wrong with all of the things. And they were leading to my frustrations, my disappointments, my burnout, my fatigue, like all of those things. My dog, you mentioned your dog. Yes, I hated my dog for the longest time because I couldn't take him on a walk without him barking and acting crazy and being perfect on the leash. And so all of the things, it was like, it's just this lack of insight on how I was not appreciating all of the gains, all of the accomplishments that, I went through to have the job that I have as a family medicine physician. I mean, how many people dream about being a doctor or had that aspiration, but for whatever reason, were never able to attain it? And I have it, and I have that. And yet I was feeling disappointed, burnout, unsatisfied, blaming my patients blaming my job for my dissatisfaction in what I perceived what it should be like. It should be making me happy. It should be making all my dreams come true. And all of my patients should be perfect, taking all their medicines like I tell them to, doing every exact thing that I tell them to do. And all of the administrators and all the bosses should love me and respect me and give me everything that I want. And having that perception of what I thought it should be like, and not really looking at the big picture, really was overwhelming and really was exhausting. And it wasn't until going to some life coach training with the life coach school that it opened up my eyes to, well, I can choose how I feel about this, and I could learn to really appreciate and look at things from a sense of love, gratitude, like you mentioned, Elise. Look at the positives instead of focusing on the negatives. And over time, amazingly, that feeling of exhaustion and that not looking forward to every day at work just slowly melted away. And I chose to look at, using the job as an example, as every day as an adventure. Like, who am I going to talk to today? Like, what problems are we going to tackle today? What stories am I going to hear today? Who's going to make me laugh today? Who can I help today? And looking at it with that lens just led to so much more love for a profession where I get to make a big impact on a lot of people, versus thinking that everyone needs to make an impact on me and how I feel, and it's their job to make me happy.
I really love that. And I gleaned so many gems from that. It's just like, it really empowers you. Like you were talking about expecting other people to make you happy. Just this concept of taking ownership, that's a choice, and happiness comes from within. And it's not what other people do or don't do that makes you happy. It's literally your own thoughts creating happiness or
Yeah, and that's how I want to show up. Right. I want to show up. I want to show up with energy. I want to show up with care. I want to show up with supporting. And I think that really does shine through whenever you are, especially in a profession where you deal with people who are hurting and vulnerable and don't have all the information or knowledge or resources to, really understand how to take control of their health. I think me showing up with that energy and with that light makes a big difference for them, but it also makes a big difference for me. So I'd like to be totally altruistic and say that, it's all for them, but it's really for me to be able to make it through 30 encounters a day of everything hurts, I'm tired all the time, I'm not taking my medicine and I don't know why I'm not feeling good.
That's all right. I think we're all just a little bit selfish. We all want to feel better.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. How about you, Nancy, when you learned about the concept of wanting what you have? How did that change you?
I had the same time at the the life coach school class that we took. I think for me it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like a huge relief. It's like, oh wow, I did choose all this and I really love it all. I love my house. It's funny when I leave my house and when I come home I say, I love you, house. And I really love everything I've created, but and I think for me it's stopped this aimless wanting of things, the shopping. I don't really shop that much anymore because I have plenty of clothes. I have a lot of things I just don't really need. But what I really liked is what Gabby said is about choosing how to feel. I think about that like picking out an outfit. When I get up in the morning, how do I want to feel today? What thoughts do I need to think to feel this way? So I think it's amazing, when we can take ownership over it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just really empowering. And then also, like, if you are looking at something, just because you chose it doesn't mean you have to always like it. You can change your mind. You look at something and maybe you don't want that picture on the wall anymore, something super benign or something huge and life-changing of maybe I don't want to be married to my husband anymore. That you can choose different thoughts, and just knowing that everything in your life is because of a thought that you had. It came from an idea, it came from a thought, your own thought. And an exercise that I think is super fun to try is coming up, because our brain, and I think it's in our culture of like wanting more and the next step in the achievement, and like once we achieve something, we kind of like, oh yeah, kind of dumb down our accomplishment, whether to be humble or whatever, but then we're just on to the next one without giving us our own like pat on the shoulder. But anyways, this exercise was very interesting, wanting what you have, but then also like a dream exercise of like in 25, list 25 things that you want. And every other thing has to be something that you already have, which is really fun. It's a really fun exercise to kind of go down that list, and having a dream of something that you don't want that you may have someday, and then followed by something that you want and that you now have. And it just really kind of sticks in your brain that you really do want everything that you have and that you've created.
I think it reinforces the power of, our thoughts on our physical environment. We pull in what we want.
Mhm.
Wow.
Right? Like that manifestation of like vibration, like how you think, how you feel, and how you act is going to create what you have and the results and the experience that you have in this life. And, it always fascinates me that biologically, we are all like pretty much the same thing, right? Gabby, you can help me out with this. We're made up of cells,
Stardust. Yes,
stardust,
stardust.
ash,
We
right?
all came from the same, Big Bang, and we all, have DNA and cells and plasma.
Yeah,
And
right. And if we're lucky, we have a functioning heart and lungs, and
Right.
we're breathing, and we can see, and we can hear, and we can taste. And the only thing that like distinguishes us from each other, besides our, being born a male or born a female or that, but is literally the thoughts that we think.
Yeah.
That's the only difference between us, like us four, right?
Right.
And just like the infinite number of uniqueness that's in our world. Like, how many people? We have 7 billion people on this planet, and how many different ways there are to live. And it's all created by what you think about your circumstance, and you can change it. And yeah, I just find it so fascinating. What's that, Nancy?
And how many different thoughts there are.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I love the idea, even before you do your exercise, Beth, which I love. It sounds like so much fun. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But even before that, just we've talked about this so many times, but the concept of a thought download, just taking that 5-10 minutes and just jotting down where your mind goes, right? We know our minds can be our best allies. They can also be assholes, right? And letting us just know where our brain is taking us by writing that down, and then really evaluating them. Do these thoughts, do they serve me? Do they help me? And for this case, do they help me want what I already have? Or are they sabotaging that? I think, the more we can do regular thought downloads, and I'm a firm believer in it, but I kind of let it go over the summer, and I need to make that part of my practice because it helps me keep my brain in check, right? Whether it's wanting what you have, or being grateful for the circumstances that you're in, or just helping you manage that mind. I think marrying a thought download with your activity is such a cool idea.
Yeah, that would be so much fun. And when you said that, it's so true. Like our brains, you have to think of our brains like, well, first, if they're not managed, it's like a toddler running around with a knife. It means well, but it's super dangerous. And you have to also think about your brain as a room that needs to be cleaned. And if you don't know what you're thinking, there's a lot of garbage in there, and you need to get that garbage out. And it's not to judge the garbage, but you just need to get it out of your mind onto paper so you can evaluate it. There's something about having it outside of you where you can like kind of be that observer more so than just thinking about what you're thinking about. It's so much more powerful to be able to observe it outside of your brain and to then look at it and say, do I want to keep thinking this thought? Is this thought something that's serving me? Is there another thought that I could possibly think in this situation? And, trying to, like Nancy said, how do I want to feel for the day? And asking yourself, well, what would I have to think in order to feel, I'll say curious. And I like that's what happened to Gabby. She's showing up to work curious because you can't hold curious and judgment at the same time. Those are two opposite feelings, and you can only feel one feeling at a time. And so come into curiosity, you can't be judging your patient for not taking their medication, and for this person for showing up late, and for your husband not making you happy. And yeah, I love that. Is there anything else you ladies want to share?
I love that you were saying about you can change your mind about something that you loved at one time, a thought that you loved at one time, and it totally served a purpose during that time. But, times change, we evolve, circumstances are different. And I'm equating that to right now, I'm in the contemplation phases of cleaning out my closet, like literally cleaning out my closet. I love everything in there. Everything in there pretty much fits me, but I don't use everything. It's getting crowded in there. It's making it challenging for new pieces that I bring that I absolutely love to fit in there. And so going through there, I think of each outfit, like you can kind of use it as a metaphor for each outfit as a thought. I pull it out and kind of, look at it, appreciate it. And I love this at one point. It definitely served its purpose at one point, but I haven't needed it. I haven't worn it in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. And it's highly unlikely that I'm going to wear it again. And I don't really have any practical utility or usefulness for it. So I can definitely get that out and find another loving home for it, donate it, what have you, so that I can have a nice, organized closet that really is useful for me now, so that when I need that outfit that day, you can easily pull it out. It fits, it feels good, and I can move on. And so, kind of as a metaphor for doing a thought download, for really looking at what you're thinking, for choosing what you want to be thinking at that point in time. It's kind of like cleaning out your closet and picking and choosing what you want to have in there, so that in the moment when you're in a rush and you really need something, it's available for you. And so thinking ahead of time of, or just identifying and being, having some insight as to what you're thinking can really help you in those moments that you're in a pinch, you're indecisive, you're under stress, or you're experiencing something out of the ordinary, to have those thoughts available for you.
I love that analogy. That's so good. What were you going to say, Elise?
That's so great. It's so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I was also going to add in, as you're starting to think about your thoughts, understand that this is a new skill. It's a muscle that needs to be built. And it won't happen overnight. And I have found that having people around me that are good at this makes it all the difference. So Nancy, I'm going to put you on the spot for a minute. So, one of the things that happened to me over the summer was I got a new diagnosis. And with that diagnosis, I needed to start using a device. And I was so not having it. And it was the straw that broke me. And I was so like judgy about the whole thing. And Nancy was the one that kept saying to me, but Elise, this device is saving your life. But Elise, this device is giving you a better future. But Elise, this device is going to make you feel so much better. And when I stopped just swirling in my head and letting my mind be an asshole, and I listened to what she said, it's what got me to acceptance. And I think having people like that in our lives that can turn our nasty thoughts around is so important. Sorry, Nancy, I had to put you on the spot.
Sometimes you need to have a good old fashioned tantrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes you need a friend to call you on your bullshit.
Yes. Yeah. She called me out on my bullshit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, funny.
Awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much. This was a very fun topic. And if you found this podcast helpful, please do share and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Hey, one more thing before we leave. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are certified professional coaches, but this broadcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice. Okay, thanks for listening. See you next week.